Philadelphia fans. We're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Welcome back to beautiful Ocean Casino Resort. Mark Farzetta here with Seth Joyner, of course, and Derek Gunn. And this is where we get to observe the game today. This is where we get to watch the game at this amazing gallery, book and games at Ocean Casino. But unfortunately, the weather not too good in South Philadelphia. Rain throughout the game today. So for anyone going down to Lincoln Financial Field, bring your poncho, of course, and make sure you guys stay dry. Ian is taking its toll on the East Coast, as we well know, and I know from driving down here this morning, it is not good out there just to drive. And obviously to play football, the passing game will be under attack today by just the weather, if not the Jacksonville Jaguars defense that comes into this game ranked number 1 in the NFL when it comes to running defense. But Seth, you played in your fair share of weather-soaked games. What will these teams have to do to execute their game plan?
You know, these games, can either be fun or they can be miserable. If you're winning, these games are they're really fun. But when you're losing to have to be out there slopping around in it, it's just a miserable time. But the weather's going to affect a lot of things in this game today. It's going to affect both of these quarterbacks and their ability to throw the ball with accuracy, to hold on to the ball when pressured in the pocket. So it's going to affect turnovers on their part. It's going to affect, the running game and footing and being able to turn, to hold on to the ball. Because as the running backs are running, guys are going to be swiping and knocking at the ball, trying to get it loose with all the water and whatnot that's on the field. But it's going to be interesting to see how these two young quarterbacks navigate, the temperature, because I think it's a high of 59 or something like that today. So that'll be colder than what Trevor Lawrence has experienced probably in his short NFL career. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. He's played in some cold games, but I don't think he's played in a game that's going to be as sloppy as it was today. So it'll be interesting to watch them navigate that. And as you alluded to, the Jaguars defense, is number 1 against the run, only giving up 55 yards per game passing. So something certainly has to give as far as that's concerned as well.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, turnovers going to be a big thing today. And when you talk about this Jacksonville Jaguars defense, nobody has taken away the football more than them. 7 takeaways already on the season. Eagles are also up there, which is very rare when we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles defense being able to take away that football. But Gunner, today, that will be another huge factor. Again, considering the weather and considering the experience this Jacksonville Jaguars defense has in just taking away the ball through 3 games this season.
Well, Jacksonville has 6 interceptions on defense and 2 fumble recoveries. Ball security is going to be a key. Both of these offenses take a lot of pride in securing the football. They've only turned the ball over 1 time. The only real people that like to play in a game like this are offensive linemen, because they know where they're going every play. For everybody else, it's a slip and slide type game. And for even the running backs, you're going to have to wear the longer cleats probably to be able to put your foot in the ground and turn and go. You've got a couple of outstanding running backs in this game. Passing game, I don't know how it's going to work, because you've got the wind gust exceeding 30, 40 miles an hour. How is it going to affect the kicking game, both the punting game and the field goal game, and the extra point game as well? So the 12th man in this game could have a major deciding factor in who wins this game.
And Doug Pederson, of course, knows just how much that 12th man can be a factor in South Philadelphia when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagle fan base. And this is another huge matchup, obviously. When you have a guy like Doug Pederson that knows the ins and outs of that stadium and of the fan base, he was practicing with a little bit more crowd noise throughout this week. He said earlier in the week when addressing the Jacksonville Jaguars media, but he knows the deal here in Philadelphia. So, Seth, when it comes to taking on this fan base, nobody knows that more so than Doug Pederson.
It really is what happens leading up to the game. I've been in that situation before where, I left and went to Arizona. First time I come back to Philly, of course, buddies, we're going to introduce the defense today, and when they introduced me, the fans booed. And I expected it. You know, if you've been here and you've left here and you come back, you expect it. But it's only a factor in the week leading up to the game. It's only a factor, you know, when you walk out on the game pregame. Because the minute you get hit in the mouth, the minute the game starts, all of that nonsense goes out of the window. And it truly does. Because if it's affecting you at that time, you pretty much haven't locked into what it is that you should be doing. And as a professional, whether you're a player or whether you're a coach, you know, when you step foot on that field, you're there for business.
And Gunnar, that brings me to, I think, what was going to at least be the number one matchup, and it really came down to Jalen Hurts versus this defense. And it's not just this defense, but it's also their defensive coordinator, Mike Caldwell. Now, for those that don't know, Mike Caldwell was also defensive coordinator, defensive assistant when it comes to Todd Bowles' defense in Tampa. And one of the big takeaways from the playoff game last year against the Buccaneers was this Jalen Hurts guy can't read defenses. He can't read what we're doing to him. How much, Gunnar, do you think that will factor into this game when it comes to Jalen Hurts trying to dissect whatever it is Mike Caldwell is trying to put in front of him?
Well, here's what you're going to find out about a Mike Caldwell defense. What you saw on paper leading up to this game is not necessarily what you're going to see throughout the game. You know, Mike Caldwell, I've known for a long time. When he was a player in Philadelphia, very quiet, very reserved, very low-key, didn't say a whole lot. All of a sudden, his name is mentioned among some of the better defensive coordinators in the game today. He learned his lessons well under one of the best defensive minds in the game in Todd Bowles. And people I talked to leading up to the game this week about Mike Caldwell is this: the wheels are always spinning. They never stop spinning. He comes up with a lot of different exotic looks on defense. He'll give you certain fronts, and all of a sudden he'll switch it up before the snap of the ball. Jalen Hurts has to be on his P's and Q's against the front seven today, because these young linebackers and those three guys up front are very fast, very quick, and very tenacious.
You know, the same thing sometimes that, you know, works for you can work against you. And as I watch film of this young Jaguars defense, they do a lot of rotation on the back end of their defense. They give you a lot of pre-snap looks, and then they'll roll to something else. They'll give you a single high, and then they'll roll to two high. They'll give you a two high look, then they'll roll back to single high. They move around a lot. So Jason Kelce will play a vital role today too, because he's the one that's in charge of protections. You know, now they're not a high blitz team, but they will come after you. It'll be up to Jalen to decipher, kind of like they couldn't get done in week one, when they're coming, when they're not coming. The guys in the box are determining who the Mike linebacker is so that they can get their count correct. And Jalen Hurts, and listen, I don't think we talked about it last time. Everyone was talking about, well, where's the sight adjustments off of the blitzes, you know? If it's not built into the offense, it's not built into the offense. And in week one, I didn't see where it was necessarily built into the offense. Now, there was one or two times where the route expression had a guy breaking shallow right now, but, you know, you can't fault Jalen Hurts for taking off and running if sight adjustment isn't in the game plan and you get a free runner. He's got to do what he's got to do. But that part of it should be in the game. There should be some sight adjustments when you read man coverage against blitz. There should be some nods of the head, some rolling of the eyes, you know, some scratching on the right cheek, or some tapping on the head. It should be something, you know, that tells these guys, hey, blitz is coming. And if blitz is coming, you know, break the route off, run a slant, run a stop. If he's off, you know, I'm just going to raise up and throw it to you. So all of those things are going to play a vital role today, because, you know, whether Jalen Hurts can or can't read defenses, and I would venture to say I would lean more towards the fact that he can, because of his development. He's got to figure out how to get that ball out of his hand and get it out quick, because there's going to be times in this game where they come and they're going to bring pressure, and he's not going to be able to escape like he normally is able to escape because of the conditions of the field.
Now, when it comes to their pass rush in general, just on paper, you're looking at a guy right now in Trayvon Walker. You're also looking at a guy right now in the other Josh Allen. Both these guys can get after the quarterback. When it comes to forcing them into making mistakes, which is something that we've talked about a lot when it's just come to Jonathan Gannon's defense, that's something the Jacksonville Jaguars do almost naturally. And these two guys coming in here are going to be a big test for guys like Jordan Mailata, Gunner, and also a guy like Lane Johnson.
Well, Devin Lloyd and Trayvon Walker get the headlines, but keep a close eye on this young man named Josh Allen. Last week he had 10 quarterback hurries. You know, people I talked to in Jacksonville, when they talk about the defense, they start with this guy coming off the edge. Very active, very tricky, has great explosion. But you're right, Jacksonville had a great draft this year. They got 2 primetime players with those 2 first-round picks. Trayvon Walker has fit in nicely at one linebacking spot, and Devin Lloyd, I've jokingly said, you know, to me, he's already looking like the Micah Parsons of the AFC. He doesn't rush as much, but in terms of filling the hole and tackling, he doesn't miss a tackle. Covering, he's one of the best cover guys out there right now. The linebacking core in general, very fast, very active, very lateral. I can't wait to see this Eagles running attack go up against this front 7.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a big test for them, certainly.
Yeah, listen, I thought that Devin Lloyd was the most athletic. I thought he was the best linebacker coming out, you know, in the draft. There was just no doubt about when you watched him on film. Like, I mean, early in the process, I'm like, oh, Nakobe Dean. And then I went back and watched film on Devin Lloyd, and I was like, wait a minute. I mean, this kid has it all. I mean, he can flat out run. He can rush the passer. He can play play in the box, on the line. He can do it all, man. He can do it all. And I was really shocked that Trayvon Walker's stock shot up the way that it did in the last week of the draft as well. But I mean, when you look at what Trent Baalke has put together and how Doug Pederson has woven this team so early on, I'm shocked at how quickly the turnaround is happening. And it's really, 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 an indictment on Urban Meyer and what he went down there and screwed up. Now, granted, he's got some better pieces, but when you all of a sudden see a guy like Trevor Lawrence, go from almost sub 50% completion to 67 in 1 year, what the heck happened? Yeah, there's better talent, but there's something psychologically that Doug is doing with this kid that Urban Meyer couldn't do with him.
Well, when you look at the way Doug Pederson helped handle Carson Wentz early in his tenure, from his first year to the second year, you saw a vast improvement in Carson Wentz in terms of him being named as a series MVP candidate before he got injured. For Trevor Lawrence, it's like a breath of fresh air now. You not only have Doug Pederson in his ear, but you also have Press Taylor, who a lot of people didn't like here. All of a sudden, Press Taylor is calling a better game down in Jacksonville. Right. You have Mike McCoy as the quarterback coach. Mike McCoy has been a head coach in the National Football League. He's groomed a lot of quarterbacks in this game. So you have 3 guys who have helped build up Trevor Lawrence's confidence and to get him back on track to that quarterback we saw when he played at Clemson.
Yep.
One thing Doug Pederson did extremely well here in Philadelphia was take over a franchise after a college head coach came in for his first NFL gig in Chip Kelly, and look what he's doing right now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. The other thing, when you look at the numbers there with Trevor Lawrence, is at this point in the season, he's got 1 interception thrown, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. At this point, through 3 weeks last year, he had 5 picks by this point at this time last year, which is nuts.
Well, everything is about how quickly these young kids can begin to decipher defenses, because it's not like it's not like the college game, In the college game, you probably got about 4 coverages, 3 blitzes, and maybe 3 fronts. That's pretty easy to game plan. It's pretty easy for, an affluent quarterback to be able to decipher what you're doing. But when you get to this level, I mean, it's like you snap the ball and you think you see one thing and it's like a ghost, because by the time you get the ball and you set your feet, they're in something completely different. So the ability that you're trying to formulate in these young quarterbacks is the ability to pre-snap, determine, and there's dead giveaways. It's like Tom Brady, if they're in too high safety and that safety is a half a yard too close or too wide, he already knows that it's a disguise. It's just he's seen it so many times that he knows. Well, these young quarterbacks have got to develop to a point where they see it And the thing that propels them and makes them better is experience. You know, you got to get fooled. You got to get it right. You got to get it half right. You got to do all of these things, and that's a part of the 3-year process, in my opinion, that allows these young guys to get better and better. So, you know, there's an acceleration with both of them. You can see Trevor Lawrence in his 2nd year, Jalen Hurts in his 3rd year. And a lot of times you have to attribute some of that to the coaches that are on that staff. Because I said it before, I'll say it again, a player's ability to develop and get better is tied to his coach's knowledge level. If the coach doesn't know, if the coach doesn't understand how to coach you and teach you to see those things, how to recognize those things, and how to adjust to those things, then guess what? You can't pass on knowledge that you don't have. And believe me, there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that don't know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Now, Doug Pederson, obviously, as we well know here in Philadelphia, a Super Bowl winning head coach, and that really gives you all the information you need to know about Doug Pederson. But when it comes to what makes him a special head coach, I think a little bit of that, Gunner, might be in Nick Sirianni, the ability to relate to the players. Doug Pederson had a leg up in being able to do that as a head coach because he was a player. Nick Sirianni played wide receiver at, D3 college. How has Nick Sirianni become a guy that can identify with his locker room so quickly already?
The word respect. He walked in and he respected his players. That goes a long way in terms of winning players over. You know, you can try to walk in and be a friend with a player, but the player's going to look at you cross-eyed when you new guy because he doesn't know much about you. It takes a while before a player can trust you. And Nick Sirianni has been the same guy from day one since he got here. And all of a sudden, players start gravitating towards him. It started with the leadership in his team, the Brandon Grahams, Jason Kelsey's, Fletcher Cox's. And then when word gets out that, okay, this guy's all right, it trickles down and everybody else can breathe a little bit easier. Now, Nick Sirianni also lets you know, and has in his short time here, he's not afraid to get in your face and put you in your place when you step out of line. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, he's not afraid to call you on it. But players respect him for it because they treat you like men. He knows how to back off on players. Get veteran players certain time off. You know, give players mental shutdowns when they need them. He's not one of these guys that's just going to browbeat you time and time again. And when you treat a player like a man, he's going to give you everything he's got and then some until you give him a reason not to. Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll see how that continues to play out with today's game here in Week 4, coming up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and also a big hit to the Eagles' defense. We'll talk about one of the people they'll be missing in this game going up against 3 pretty damn good wide receivers when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. All that and more when we return here on the JAKIB Media Pregame Show.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6 ABC